The meeting, the room was quiet except for the faint buzz of the fluorescent light above. Commander Ethan sat stiffly in his chair, his eyes fixed on the figure sitting across from him. She did not move. She did not speak. She only watched him, her gaze heavy, as if she were peeling away every layer of his mind. The alien woman looked human at first glance, but she was not. Her skin carried a soft purple glow, smooth like polished stone under the light. Her eyes were darker than night, wide and unblinking, reflecting everything yet revealing nothing. The silence between them felt alive, pressing on Ethan's chest, making every breath harder. He was a soldier. He had fought battles on burned colonies and lifeless moons. He had stood face to face with death more times than he could count. But sitting here in this small interrogation room with this alien bound to the chair, he felt something he had never felt before: fear without a cause. Ethan cleared his throat, trying to steady his voice. "Do you understand me?" he asked. His words echoed faintly against the bare metal walls. The alien gave no answer. She tilted her head slightly, studying him like a puzzle. The corners of her mouth did not move. Her silence was sharper than any reply. Ethan's fingers tapped the table, the rhythm betraying his nerves. "We know you can speak," he said, firmer this time. "Others like you have spoken before. Why not you?" The woman finally blinked. Her lips parted, but the sound that came out was not spoken language. It was a whisper inside his head. "I do not need to speak when your mind already does it for me." Ethan froze. His heartbeat slammed in his ears. He looked at her mouth, but it had not moved. The voice was not in the room. It was inside him. He pushed back in his chair, shaking his head. "No," he muttered. "That is impossible." The alien leaned forward slowly. The metal cuffs around her wrists clinked, but she did not fight them. She only looked at him, and again the whisper came. "I know your fear, Commander Ethan. I know what you hide. I know what they made you forget." His hands tightened into fists. He wanted to deny it, to call her a liar, but then she spoke again, this time with detail that stabbed like a blade. "The farmhouse. The boy with the broken arm. You left him behind." Ethan's eyes widened. His throat closed. That memory was buried deep, locked away where no one could reach it. No soldier knew it. No report held it. He had never spoken it aloud, not even in the silence of his own quarters. His chair screeched against the floor as he stood. "How do you know that?" he demanded, his voice cracking. The alien's dark eyes did not waver. She was calm, almost gentle, as she whispered again inside his mind. "Because your thoughts are open to me. You cannot hide what you are, and you cannot hide what they are." Ethan's pulse hammered. Sweat beaded on his forehead. "They?" he repeated, his voice uneven. The alien's gaze seemed to pierce through him. "Your leaders, your commanders, the ones who told you we were your enemy. They betrayed you before I ever came here." The room felt colder. Ethan looked at the mirror on the wall, knowing his superiors were watching from the other side. His training told him to ignore her words, to see them as manipulation, but his instincts told him something else. She was too precise, too real. "You are trying to confuse me," Ethan said, but even he could hear the doubt in his tone. The alien did not smile, but her stare deepened. "I do not lie. Your own memories will tell you. They only need a push to awaken." She leaned back against the chair, the chains rattling softly. The whisper inside him grew sharper, colder. "You were never fighting for humanity. You were fighting for their betrayal." Ethan's breathing quickened. He wanted to shut her out, but her voice filled every corner of his skull. He slammed his palms against the table. "Stop," he shouted. His own voice echoed back at him, desperate and broken. For the first time, the alien closed her eyes. The silence returned, thick and heavy. Ethan's chest heaved as he tried to regain control. But the damage was done. She had already planted the seed, and it was growing inside him with every beat of his heart. He looked at her again, at the strange calm in her posture, at the way she seemed certain of him, as if she already knew the choice he had not yet made. Ethan whispered under his breath, almost to himself. "What are you?" Her eyes opened once more, glowing faintly under the cold light, and again, without her lips moving, the answer came. "I am the truth they tried to bury inside your mind. And now, Commander Ethan, you will see it." The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Ethan realized this meeting was not an interrogation. It was something else, something far more dangerous. and he was no longer the one in control. The truth revealed. The hours in the interrogation room felt like days. Ethan tried to keep his focus, but his thoughts kept circling back to the alien's words. Betrayal. Secrets. Leaders who had sold out their own people. He wanted to dismiss it, to file it away as another trick of an enemy prisoner. Yet the memory she pulled from him, the boy with the broken arm, was too personal, too raw. He leaned forward, his elbows pressing into the cold metal table. If you can read my mind, he said slowly, his voice low, then tell me something else. Tell me what they hid from me. The alien did not move right away. She only watched him, her dark eyes steady as if waiting for him to say those words. Then, like a sudden wave, her voice filled his mind again. You already know the truth. You have always known. I only need to show you what you refuse to see. Her pupils dilated, and for a moment Ethan felt dizzy. The room seemed to blur. The cold walls melted into darkness. He blinked hard, but when his eyes opened again, he was no longer sitting in the chair. He was standing on a barren world under a red sky. Fires burned in the distance. Human colonies, houses, streets, farms were nothing but rubble. The sound of screaming carried across the wind. Ethan staggered, clutching his head. What is this? What are you doing to me? The alien's voice whispered around him, echoing in the smoke. Not a dream. Not a lie. A memory buried beneath your obedience. Look closely, Commander. He turned and saw himself, younger, standing with other soldiers. Their faces were grim, their weapons ready. They were not fighting aliens. They were standing guard while human officials loaded crates onto ships. Crates filled with supplies, food, medicine, but not for the colonists. The starving families reached out, begging. And the order had come, hold the line. Do not interfere. Ethan's younger self had obeyed. He had stood still as the ships lifted off, leaving the colonists behind to die. No, Ethan whispered, his chest tightening. That cannot be right. That cannot be real. But the vision did not fade. The cries of the abandoned people clawed at his ears. He saw their faces, men, women, children, faces he had forced himself to forget. This is the truth, the alien's voice pressed. Your leaders traded lives for power. They fed us lies, told you we were the monsters while they starved their own people. And you obeyed. The vision shattered. Ethan gasped and slammed back into the chair, the cold air of the interrogation room burning his lungs. His hands trembled as he gripped the table. He looked at the alien. She was still chained, still unmoving, yet she had shown him everything. You planted that in my head, Ethan said. His voice shook. You made me see it. The alien's expression did not change. Her whisper returned. If it were only a trick, would your heart ache the way it does now? Would your hands shake? The pain you feel is not mine, it is yours. Ethan stared at his own hands. He could not steady them. The memory was too real. He remembered the dust, the crying, the orders shouted through the comms. He had buried it so deep that even he forgot. But now it rose like a ghost, undeniable. He shook his head violently, his voice breaking. Why are you showing me this? What do you want from me? The alien finally spoke with her lips, her voice soft but clear. I want you to see who your enemy truly is. Ethan blinked. Hearing her voice out loud was almost stranger than the whispers. It carried no anger, no hatred, only calm certainty. She leaned slightly forward, the chains clinking softly. You are not at war with my kind, Commander. You are at war with the ones who use you. They tell you we are the danger, so you never look at them. Ethan swallowed hard. His throat was dry. He wanted to argue, to push back, but her words coiled into the doubt already gnawing at him. I have fought your people, he said. I have seen the bodies, the destruction. Do not tell me it is all lies. Her dark eyes locked with his. And how many times did you see what started it? How many times did you see who gave the first strike? You see only the aftermath. You never question who pulled the strings. Ethan lowered his hands and met her stare again. His voice was quiet, almost broken. If what you say is true, then why tell me? Why not destroy us? Why not let us drown in our own lies? Her lips curved, not quite a smile, more like sorrow. Because not all humans are blind. Some of you still search for truth. Some of you can still change what comes next. The weight of her words pressed on him like gravity. Ethan knew this was no ordinary interrogation. This was the beginning of something else. Something larger than him. Larger than the war. And for the first time in his life, he was not sure who the enemy really was. The betrayal that shook humanity, The next day began like any other in the base, but to Ethan, nothing felt the same. The alien's words kept repeating in his head, louder than any order, sharper than any weapon. He tried to push them away, tried to convince himself they were only tricks. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw the starving colonists. He heard the cries of the boy he had abandoned. When he entered the interrogation room again, she was waiting. Her hands still bound, her posture still calm as if she had been carved out of stone. Only her eyes moved, following him as he sat. "You will answer my questions," Ethan said firmly. His voice had more edge than before, as though he needed control more than truth. The alien tilted her head, her voice whispering inside him once again. "You do not need my answers. You already carry them." Ethan slammed a folder onto the table. "These are reports, official records, proof that your people attacked first, killed civilians, burned colonies. You cannot deny that." The alien's gaze dropped to the folder. Slowly, she raised her eyes to meet his again. "And when did you see these events yourself, Commander? Or did you only read them on paper, handed down by the same hands that betrayed you?" Her words cut deeper than he wanted to admit. He had never asked that question before. He had only followed. The air in the room thickened. Without warning, her presence pressed against his mind again, pulling him downward. The walls faded, and Ethan was dragged into another vision. This time he stood on the bridge of a human battleship. Generals and admirals surrounded him, their voices urgent, their faces tense. On the screens ahead, alien ships glowed in the void. "They fired first," one officer barked. "We must retaliate." Orders flew like bullets. Weapons were charged. Soldiers cheered for vengeance. But then Ethan noticed something. On another hidden channel, officers were laughing. Talking quietly, almost proudly. One voice said, "The trade is complete. They will never know." Ethan turned and he saw crates, human-made stamped with Earth's seal, being transferred to another alien faction in the shadows of space. Supplies, weapons, technology, deals made behind the war. Deals that cost countless lives. He staggered in the vision. No, this cannot be true. "We would never—" The alien's voice echoed inside him, cold but steady. "Your leaders created the war. They sold blood for power. They told you we were the enemy, so you would never look too closely. And you obeyed." The vision dissolved. Ethan collapsed into his chair, gasping for air, his forehead damp with sweat. The folder of proof sat unopened in front of him, meaningless now. His hands trembled as he whispered, "Why are you showing me this?" "Why me?" The alien's eyes glowed faintly, like embers in the dark. "Because you still question. Most do not. Most accept their orders and bury their guilt until it kills them. But you still hear the voices of the ones you left behind." Ethan's mind reeled. Faces flashed before him. Colonists abandoned, soldiers used like pawns, commanders who smiled as they signed death orders. The betrayal was too vast, too cruel. He thought of the men and women watching behind the glass, the ones who controlled the cameras and the orders. Were they in on it? How deep did it go? The alien leaned closer, the chains rattling softly. "You are not fighting a war between species, Commander. You are fighting a war between truth and the lies that built your world." Ethan felt a chill crawl up his spine. He wanted to deny it, to stand on the comfort of his training. But he could not unsee what he had seen. A heavy silence filled the room. Finally, Ethan asked the question that had been tearing at him since the first moment she spoke. "If what you say is true, then what happens to humanity?" Her voice sank into him like stones sinking in water. "Humanity must choose. It can open its eyes or it can remain blind, but the betrayal will destroy it either way." The weight of those words pressed into his chest until it hurt. He had never thought about the future beyond the next battle, beyond survival, but now the picture was too large to ignore. From the other side of the glass, his superiors saw only a soldier questioning a prisoner. But inside this room, Ethan was witnessing the shattering of everything he believed in. He stood abruptly, unable to breathe under her stare. His chair screeched against the floor. His fists clenched at his sides. "You want me to betray them," he said harshly. "You want me to turn on my own people?" Her gaze softened, almost sorrowful. "I want you to see who your people truly are." Ethan's jaw tightened. His pulse raced. He stormed out of the room, leaving the alien chained and silent once more. But no matter how far he walked down the steel corridors of the base, he could not escape her voice still whispering in his mind. "The betrayal has already begun, and you were never meant to survive it." The choice. The order came in the middle of the night. Ethan had been lying awake in his quarters, staring at the ceiling, his mind still burning with the alien's visions. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the starving colonists, the crates of supplies traded away, the quiet laughter of officers who treated human lives like pieces on a game board. Sleep would not come. The sharp buzz of the comm shattered the silence. He pressed the receiver. A voice, cold and commanding, filled the room. "Commander Ethan, tomorrow the prisoner will be executed. You will oversee it." No delays. Ethan froze. His throat went dry. He answered out of instinct. "Yes, sir." The line cut. Silence returned, heavier than before. He sat on the edge of the bed, his hands gripping his knees. The words repeated inside him. Tomorrow, executed. He thought of her calm face, her voice whispering in his head. "Kill me, and you kill your only chance to save humanity from itself." Ethan buried his face in his hands. He was a soldier. Obedience was in his blood. He had lived by orders his entire life. But now those same orders felt like shackles around his throat. The next morning he walked into the interrogation room with a weight in his chest. The alien was there, as always, bound to the chair. She looked at him as if she already knew. Her eyes followed him in silence as he sat down. "You know what the order is," Ethan said finally. His voice cracked with exhaustion. Her voice whispered into his mind. "Yes. They fear what I have given you. They cannot silence the truth, but they can silence me." Ethan slammed his fist onto the table. "Why me? Why show me this? I did not ask for it." The alien's lips parted slightly. This time she spoke out loud, her voice soft but steady. "Because you still have a choice." The words hung between them. Ethan leaned forward, his voice low and strained. "You do not understand. If I refuse an order, I am finished. They will replace me, kill me, bury me. Nothing changes." Her dark eyes glowed faintly. "Something will change. You. One human who sees the truth is more dangerous than an army that does not." Ethan looked away, his chest rising and falling heavily. He wanted to believe her, but he also knew the cost. The door to the room opened suddenly. His breathing was ragged. "Do not mistake this," he whispered. "I am not on your side. He stopped. The words felt empty. He was no longer sure whose side he was on. Alarms blared through the base. Red lights flashed across the walls. The sound of boots thundered in the halls. Reinforcements were coming. The alien leaned forward, her chains rattling. "Free me, Commander, or your choice means nothing." Ethan's mind raced. His whole world had been shattered in hours. Now he had killed his own men, broken every oath, and stood on the edge of no return. His hand reached for the keys on the dead guard's belt. His fingers trembled as he unlocked the cuffs around her wrists. The metal dropped with a heavy clink. She rubbed her freed hands, her expression unreadable. Then she stood, taller than he expected, her presence filling the room. Outside, the alarms grew louder. Shouts filled the corridor. Soldiers were closing in. Ethan's heart pounded. He had chosen. There was no going back. The alien's voice whispered inside him one last time. "This is only the beginning. The true war is not against my people, Commander. It is against your own." And with that, the door burst open. The shocking ending. The door slammed open with a crash. Armed soldiers poured into the corridor outside, their boots pounding the floor, their voices shouting orders. Red lights flashed across the walls, alarms shrieking like the base itself was panicking. Ethan gripped his weapon tighter, his breathing heavy. The alien stood beside him now, her chains gone, her presence strangely calm while chaos closed in. "Commander, step away from the prisoner," a voice roared from the hallway. "Drop your weapon and surrender immediately." Ethan's mind raced. Moments ago he had been one of them, another soldier carrying out orders. Now he was a traitor in their eyes. One wrong step and he would be gunned down where he stood. The alien turned her head slightly, her voice sliding into his thoughts. "If you hesitate now, you will die for nothing. Choose your path fully, or let them drag you back into the chains you broke." Ethan swallowed hard. He stepped into the hallway, his weapon raised. Soldiers aimed their rifles at him, their fingers on the triggers. His commanding officer stood at the front, his face pale with fury. "Ethan," the officer barked. "Stand down." "Do you know what you're doing?" "Yes," Ethan said, though his voice trembled. "For the first time, I do." The officer's eyes narrowed. "You've been compromised. That thing has poisoned your mind. Kill her now and maybe, we'll forgive this madness. Ethan glanced at the alien. She did not move. She only watched him with those endless dark eyes. The weight of choice pressed against him once again. The officer raised his hand. Final order, Commander, kill her. Or you die here. The air grew tense. Fingers tightened on triggers. The alien's whisper slid across Ethan's mind. If you kill me, you kill your only chance to end their lives. If you kill them, you kill the chains that bind you. Ethan's pulse thundered. He thought of the colonists left to starve. He thought of the boy with the broken arm. He thought of the crates traded for power, the generals who laughed behind closed doors. And then his decision was made. His weapon fired, not at the alien, but at the officer giving the order. The shot rang out like thunder. The man collapsed, his command silenced in an instant. The hallway erupted into chaos. Soldiers shouted, gunfire roared, and the walls shook under the storm of violence. Ethan ducked, firing back, his mind a blur of instinct and defiance. The alien moved with him, not lifting a weapon but gliding through the fight like a shadow. Bullets seemed to bend away from her, ricocheting off walls as if the universe itself refused to touch her. One by one, the soldiers fell. Smoke filled the air. The alarms screamed louder. When silence finally returned, Ethan stood trembling in the hallway, surrounded by the bodies of men he had once called brothers. He lowered his weapon slowly, his chest heaving. His hand shook so badly he nearly dropped it. He stared at the blood on the floor, the faces of the dead, the reality of what he had done. The alien stepped beside him, her voice soft inside his mind. Do not mourn the chains, Commander. Mourn the truth they forced you to bury. Ethan turned to her, his eyes burning. You made me a traitor. To my people. To everything I swore to protect. Her gaze held his without flinching. No, they made you a traitor long before I arrived. You only chose to see it today. He wanted to argue, but the words died in his throat. Deep inside, he knew she was right. The base shook suddenly, a low rumble trembling through the floor. Explosions echoed in the distance. Ethan's comm crackled, voices frantic. Enemy ships detected. Breach in outer defense lines. We're under attack. Ethan's eyes widened. Your people? The alien's expression was unreadable. Not mine. The others. The ones they made deals with. The ones who will burn what remains of your lies. Ethan's stomach dropped. The betrayal was larger than he ever imagined. Humanity was being torn apart from both sides, by the enemies outside and by the leaders within. The alien stepped closer, her voice pressing into his mind like a vow. This is not the end, Commander. This is the beginning. The war is not between species. It is between truth and the ones who fear it. Outside, the ground shook again, alarms wailing as the base fell into chaos. Ethan looked at her, at the strange calm in her face, at the faint glow of her skin under the red lights. Why me? He asked again, his voice raw. Why show me all this? Her eyes softened, almost human for the first time. Because you were strong enough to see the betrayal. And now you are cursed to carry it. The ceiling cracked, dust falling from above. Shouts echoed from deeper in the base. The world was crumbling around them. Ethan clenched his jaw. He had no answers, no map for what came next. Only one truth remained. Nothing would ever be the same. The alien's whisper echoed in his skull as they turned toward the exit.